And he's hiding on the pomegranate tree, woe is me. And so Jonathan sneaks out and begins this reaction. And so they find out, and according here is that Jonathan and his armor bearer were not present. So Saul said to Ahab, bring the ark of God. And while Saul was talking to the priests, the tumult of the Philistines, the group of the Philistine in the encampment increased more and more. There was more and more confusion. There was more and more destruction. There was more and more Philistine against Philistine. And so Saul said to the priest, withdraw your hand. Now, we find something in this text today that I think is maybe familiar to a lot of us. Not long ago, there was, anybody remember The Runaway Bride, the movie? And and in that movie, and then there was kind of like The Runaway Bride in Georgia. That was very similar. And it's kind of strange too that she's still kind of being talked about. But there, if you think about that Runaway Bride, you are mindful of people being left at the altar. But oftentimes I believe that if we're honest with ourselves, oftentimes we're left at the altar. And what I mean by that is that oftentimes, it's times when we're praying, that we're believing we're doing something religious, that we're believing we're kind of interacting with God, but we're really not. Have you ever been there? I was thinking about that today, just some of the things in which sometimes we do as believers, sometimes we do as Christians, sometimes we do as churches, all we really do is we got left at the altar. We're standing there and we're doing our own thing, but God's nowhere to be found. We think we're doing the right thing. We think that we are doing the religious thing, and oftentimes that's what we're doing. We're doing the religious thing, not doing the right thing. And that's what happens in Saul's life. And that's what we want to look at today is let's not become Saul. Let's be mindful of what Jonathan does. Saul keeps missing time and time and time again in these chapters. He keeps missing his divine moment, an opportunity to seize what God is doing constantly. And oftentimes he thinks he's doing the right thing. But as we talked about, it's not always about doing the right thing. It's about doing the right thing at the right time in the right way. And here Saul, one writer put it this way, Saul is acting when he should be waiting. He is controlling when he should be praying. He is sleeping when he should have been fighting. And in this case that we looked at today, he's praying when he should have been moving. And we'll look at that today. And look at how that applies to us today. And we want to learn, how can we become more like Jonathan and less like Saul? More like Jonathan and less like Saul. And I believe to do that, we need to ignite a reaction. And I want to talk to you today about that, igniting a reaction, being something that's very, very small, very, very insignificant, but yet can really do something that can make a difference. And if we're going to ignite a reaction in the lives of the people around us, in the community in which we live, there's some things in which I think we must do. To ignite a reaction, we need to seize that first point there. We need to seize every divine moment. Seize every divine moment. You see, when we look at Saul, Saul's continuing to miss his divine moment because he's trying to do the right thing, oftentimes in the wrong timing, and oftentimes in the wrong way. He's being religious. But as he's trying to be religious, and notice, and as we looked earlier, and go back and read chapter 13, 14, and 15, he's trying to be religious. And in chapter 13, when all this is going on, it's going, Saul's here, we've got all this great army before us, and we need to do something. Hey, let's do something religious. Bring forth the sacrifice. But oftentimes, when we try to be religious, we're often ineffective. I think that's one of the key things that we see in Saul. When he's being religious, he's very ineffective. But when we look at Jonathan, Jonathan's right. Jonathan seems to always do the right thing at the right time in the right way, and when he does, he ignites a reaction. When he does the right thing in the right time in the right way, he ignites a reaction. He changes momentum. He changes. The Philistines are destroyed. There's just something that goes on there. And he becomes very effective by doing the right thing and not always the religious thing. And when we see that, when we look at what Jonathan does the right thing at the right time in the right way, and the enemy is attacked, it's killed, it's shaken, God shows up. And all because he has a willingness, if you were here when we talked about that, he has this willingness to step out in faith against overwhelming odds. It was just him and his armor bearer. One sword between the two of them. Going against the Philistine encampment against overwhelming odds. Bad situation. But he believed God. One of the commentators I was reading this week said, whenever we choose to engage in a divine opportunity, there is the real potential of bringing others into God's presence, God's purpose. And this is one reason, this writer put, he says, this is one reason that it is critical to seize every divine moment, for you never know at the onset all that God intends to do through your simple act of obedience. You see, we often think that, maybe through this series, that seizing your divine moment, when God shows up, when God places before you an opportunity to interact in a very special way, that it's all about me. I'm going to do this. I'm going to seize my divine moment. It's going to be a power. It's going to be a great thing. I'm going to glow, you know. It's one of these things where we start thinking about being, it's all about us, but it's not always about us. Certainly it's about being faithful. Certainly it's about doing the right thing at the right time in the right way. But oftentimes what we see specifically in Scripture is when people seize those opportunities, when God shows up, that it just doesn't affect them, but it affects others. The people around them. And that's what happens in this particular passage. Is that as this happens, as there is this change, as there is this right thing that becomes very effective, that the people of God, the Israelites, seem to have a bolstering of their own faith, a bolstering of their own courage, a bolstering of their own belief in what God can do. Because they see what's happening. They're going, hey, it's just Jonathan and his armor bearer, and they caused that. They caused Philistine against Philistine. Hey, he's only got one sword. If that can do it, hey, what can we do? And you see, that's what happens. When we begin to seize every divine moment, we need to be mindful of it, because oftentimes, can you imagine what we miss out on? We go, I don't know. That it might be too risky. It might be, I might have to do it alone and nobody will be there with me. Some of those things which we talked about over these last couple of weeks. You see, when we seize our divine moment, we have an opportunity to ignite a reaction in others. And so I want to ask you this morning, you see there on the thing, what are you doing to ignite others? In your own life, in your everyday walk. And you may be here today, and you may say, well, preacher says, I'm on this side. We use this terminology a lot here at New Journey. I'm about a line of faith. I believe there's what you call, I see this line every Sunday, a line of faith. We've got a lot of people that are on one side of the line of faith. They're on the side of the line of faith that's about them, that's about their way, it's about, what I want, what I need, what I can do. And we've got to come to a point to where we cross over that line of faith, where we realize that it's no longer about us. And I know that's hard. I know that's difficult. And I hear myself saying it, and even as I say it, I know how difficult that can be, because we are selfish people. And it is an ongoing battle in my own life to be mindful that as I live, as I wake each day, and as I go through each day, that it's not about me. It is not about me. And I'm not going to stand before you and tell you that it's an easy thing, but it's a thing that we have to struggle with. It's a thing that we have to grasp. It's a thing that we have to fight for. And that's why as we seize those divine moments, it makes it easier, because as we realize and we're fighting, say, God, I know it's not easy, but as I do this, and I see what you do, I see how you interact, I see how you change me, and by changing me, you have an opportunity to change others. What are you doing to ignite a reaction in others? And I just listed a couple of things. Just in your prayer, you may say, well, I'm not going to be one that's going to be very upfront with folks. I'm not comfortable around people. Maybe it's just something to do in your prayer life. Are you praying for people in your own community, in your own neck of the woods, and what's going on in your life? Oh, that's a little quick there, but we'll get back to that one. Are you praying for people in your networks? And teach. I just wrote several things: praying, teaching, witnessing, giving, loving, comforting, and encouraging. There's so many different areas in our lives. If we'll just take just a few seconds, a few moments of our time, and reflect on the opportunities that we have. And you have opportunities that I don't have. Oftentimes, well, you're a preacher, and you're the franchise player, you need to go do that. That's what you're about. No. We're all, there's no franchise player at New Journey. We're all in this together. We all have opportunities. You run and work and go and play in networks that I'll never be able to run, to work and play. I might be able to kind of rub up against them and be seen, but you know people that I don't know. You have skills, and you have that community that I'll never be able to just kind of be a part of.